Welcome to True and Unpolished. Through this podcast, our intention is to uplift, amuse, and inspire you to create more of a life you'll love. Let's get authentic, everybody. Hi there, people. I'm trying to come up with creative ways to say hello. Today, Mary and I were talking about what we wanted to share with you guys. And we recognize, we all do, you do, we know that the world and all of its inhabitants have gone totally crazy at this moment in history. Cuckoo birds. And that can feel a little serious. Not a little, but it can feel a lot serious. It can feel really heavy and trying. And so today we are going to talk about some crazy moments, some shocking moments that are a little bit lighter, a little bit more fun. And we also were trying to decide what if our stories, because Mary's got a story and I got a story, and we wanted to know, are they true?
We all have a story, Lydia.
That's true. That's true. Corrected. I stand corrected. We were trying to decide if they're true, if they're unpolished, which one they are. And so we're going to let you decide. After Mary tells her story, I'm going to tell her whether I think it's true or unpolished and why. And she's going to do the same for me. All right. This is going to be fun. Mary?
This is going to be fun. In 2015, I got divorced and I bought a house. Next door lived this sweet little family with 2 girls and a mom. About 2 months later, 3 months in, there was this event that I had at my house. It was a housewarming / blessing, and it was just a huge, beautiful event. I had friends come and decorate my house and get everything ready. I was at work all day and I come home and there is this beautiful home and all these guests kind of awaiting me. My house is really clean. It's probably the cleanest it's ever been.
Or ever will be.
Before or since. Right. And so it started raining that night that I had my party. And it rained for days. The river's swelling, the creeks or the dams breaking, and it ended up being this massive flood.
Oh, that's right. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I forgot it coincided with that. Okay, yeah.
It was a really interesting moment because I was literally moving from one life to another. You know, I bought this house. The whole time that I was in my old house going through a separation, I really painstakingly went through all of the things that I owned, got rid of it, kind of reflected. And, it was a very traumatic, but also clearing and healing year. And that book about finding joy had come out.
Mm-hmm.
And so you take everything in your closet or whatever, you put it in the center of your room and you only keep the things that bring you joy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was leaving the house and my ex-husband would come back to live in that house after we got divorced. But what I did was I went through everything in my house that way. So when I moved into this home that I'm in now, everything in my home brought me joy.
Yeah.
And so I live on a very flat piece of property, but everybody, it was a very even this is not the lighthearted and fun part of my story, because everybody was freaking out because the dams were breaking and, a ton of homes got flooded, ruined, people misplaced, and, all that sort of thing. I had just started this new life and we had this beautiful family next door who I was starting to fall in love with. And we had this magical moment during that flood. I guess it was kind of the aftermath, but it kept raining. But the water started to subside. One magical part was that I got to get the whole week off work. Stay-at-home mom. You know, we have this commune thing going on. The girls are running back and forth.
Yeah.
As you and I do. I got inspired and I decided to make soup. I love making soup in the fall, and this was around October. I don't do things half-ass. I either do them or I don't do them.
That's right.
And so I had my soup pot, my other pot, my crock pot, and my neighbor's pot. And they're all over here, and we're just like throwing stuff in the pot and making all this soup. And there's only two of us that live in the house.
Yeah.
And so we started, and also I'm vegetarian, so people don't really love to eat what I cook all the time, you know.
Amen.
So I have like overflowing pots and pots of soup. And what I do is I again get inspired, and we're going to go deliver these things. All of us pile in the car and we go and deliver these. Quite frankly, they probably weren't even that good containers of soup to people who are working in rescue. And that continued for a long time, that magic. And I think that is what life does for us in those moments where things are being washed away, literally, you know, and I'm in the middle of trying to rebuild, and the rains kind of come down, and I'm creating something new, even if it's not delicious to everybody.
Yeah. To everybody. I find that if you just put a little salt on stuff, it gets much better.
Yes, I do love some salt.
So I think that story is true. I think it's true because, you know, you explain that you put your stuff in the middle of the room and you only kept the things that brought you joy, which was being true to yourself. And then that intention flowed over into your new home. And it's true because your experience of that flood reflected the intention you had for your new home. Because I know, you know, and everybody, just so you know, it doesn't flood where Mary lives. I mean, that's where I'm from. I was born there and lived there for a very long time. And it doesn't flood there. So it's a very strange circumstance. I mean, pre all this madness. And that's worth noting that we wanted this to be pre March 2020. And so, you know, now it's like we can't be shocked, but then we still could be. And I think it was true because it reflected your experience, and other people probably had a very different experience of that flood.
Well, I know that other people did. And I have one friend in particular who had a similar traumatic experience in divorce, and she didn't show up that night. I'm not going to share with you why.
Right.
But she didn't show up that night. And that night was a very traumatic night for her, not because of the flood, but I think the symbolism of that.
Yeah.
Another thing about that experience that I think for me was really beautiful was what happened on social media. So, and this is locally. What happened locally where I live is people shared information. There was this exchange of information, at least on my feed, where you knew what was happening. And I would go I would want to go look at the news stories. And what happened was they were saying the same thing over and over. So it wasn't information, it
Yeah.
was just sensation.
Yeah.
And but what I found was that when I opened social media, people were actively sharing
Hmm.
what was happening and how you could help, which is what led me to the inspiration to take soup.
Hmm. Yeah.
It was the feeling of wanting to help that was there, and that community was truly there, and it was something really beautiful that I had never seen before in that way. I mean, I think it does happen in natural disasters a lot, where people show up for each other. People are inspired to do things that they normally wouldn't do.
In the movie The Moses Code, there is a filmmaker in that
Yeah.
movie, and he talked about he was at the World Trade Center, when the planes hit. And no, he was in New York City, a few blocks away. And
Mhm.
once everything started going nuts, he, ran toward the disaster. Like he felt very called to go and be of service and to help. And he had the experience of that all being love. Like everywhere he looked, all he saw was love. He saw people
Mhm.
helping each other, calling for each other, firemen running into the building. I mean, for him, the experience of that moment, that day, that time was one of love. And I'm sure there's a ton of people that didn't experience it that way. And, perception creates reality. Like if we're willing to look and see love, we'll see it. Also, in studying 9/11 and kind of breaking it down, not everybody that was there had PTSD. Not everybody that was there had it.
Mhm.
And the people that had it were people who were alone, that couldn't get to other people, that couldn't get to their family, they were completely cut off. And then the people that were not alone did not have that. And I think that there is that sense of community when something first happens. I think that we do that really well. When something first happens, I think that we as a human race kind of come together and something beautiful happens. And unfortunately, it isn't sustainable, not because we don't have the capacity for it, but because we haven't woken up to the degree that we need to.
Right. And what you're talking about is inspired action.
Right.
It's different than impulse, but they can have some overlap. But inspired action is always there. It's
Yeah.
always available. But I think you're right on with the being awake part.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's why we can't sustain it. Because even in the beginning of this, even in the beginning of the pandemic, everybody like came together for a minute.
So in the church that Lydia and I grew up in, we didn't go to the same church, but we went to the same type of church, and there were retreats that all the area churches would come to, and it was that sort of thing.
Hmm.
It was a sort of sacred and also secretive kind of surprise that there it's called happening. And there's similar ones in different types of churches. It's when we have these mountaintop experiences, we are connected truly to the divine and to each other.
Hmm.
And those retreats really did create that for adolescents, is what those retreats are designed for. They really do create that element.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think whether it's that kind of retreat that's sort of manufactured, and it's a beautiful, wonderful retreat, but it's also manufactured.
Right.
And what happens is we start creating dogma, then we get stuck in the dogma.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I totally agree. And what that reminds me of is what the secret language of birthdays says about me, about people that are born on my week.
Yeah.
And what it says is that we, are naturally likable.
You are naturally likable. Lydia is naturally
Yes.
naturally
Yes.
likable.
It says that I, Lydia, am naturally likable and that I can get addicted to the applause in
Mm.
such a way that I notice that I'm likable and, I'm getting the applause, so to speak. And so then I go, okay, what was I doing to get that applause? I need to go get that applause again. Okay, I'm going to try to do that. And so what happens is I end up being fake and phony and not me, the whole reason why I was liked in the first place. And then I scratch my head and go, well, what happened?
That's sort of a personal dogma.
Yeah, a personal dogma. Exactly. Like, what is your personal dogma?
What is my role? I mean, it's a role. It's like,
Yeah,
how do I stay in that role? How do I, continue to wear this mask?
right. And how,
Until then you're like, why the hell am I wearing this mask?
right. And also, it's how do we keep this, brotherly love going? Like, how do we, do that? And I think then,
Yes. How do we create more of that?
right. And then we get opinions
Yeah.
about it. And your opinion and my opinion are going to be different about how we go about keeping that brotherly love. And all of a sudden, we don't got any brotherly love anymore.
So do you think your story is going to be true or unpolished?
I don't know. I think it's going to be abolished. And I think all of you are just going to be like,
I'll be the judge.
okay, you be the judge. Okay, everybody, like, try if you can to put your mind back in January 2020, like before all of this happened, because really and truly, I cannot imagine something that would shock me. Maybe aliens would shock me at this point, but almost nothing else would. And I think that's true for everything.
Don't speak so suddenly.
Right now, exactly. Knock on wood. So try to put yourself like you are you. Close your eyes. You are you. It is January 15th or some other arbitrary day in January of 2020. Now listen to my story. Okay, so my boys and I went to Target.
Can we open our eyes?
Yeah, open your eyes. Or keep them closed. I don't know. Whatever works for you. So we're at Target and we need to run in and get a birthday gift. It's like right before a birthday party. And because that's the way I roll, I do everything last minute. And so, it's 13 minus 30 minutes until the party starts. And it's a kid birthday. And so we're going in to get the birthday present. And I walk, everything's normal. I walk into the store. It's just normal Target. I walk to the back with the boys. We pick out the gift and we come back. And I see that the line in Target looks like the line outside of like the Apple store when a new iPhone is coming out, or concert tickets, or what's the day? Oh, Black Friday. Like it literally was wrapped all the way around. And,
I've been in a store like that.
well, but the weird thing is that when we walked in, which was just 10 minutes before, there was no line. Everything was normal. And now there's this huge line and people are like, the murmurings are
What's
starting.
going
What's
on?
going on here? Like, why are we in line? I got to go. Blah, blah, blah. And
Christmas is over.
yeah, it is nowhere near Christmas at this time. And this is where I got really excited because I always, and I have to check in with myself if this is still true, but I loved it when stuff went wrong. Like I thought, good that it went wrong and that it's not, monotonous and the same thing over and over again. Like I would get excited when stuff went wrong. And So I'm getting excited, and the boys are like, "What?" And I said, "This is so exciting. Just watch. Just, this is not like, this isn't normal. Let's just look. Let's just watch, And I'm so excited.
That is so magical.
It was magical. And here is what happened. All of the targets all over the country at the same time, their computer systems went down.
Oh.
Yes. So people in other places, in other targets, were also experiencing something crazy. And that got me even more excited that this was happening on a widespread level. And so that was it, and people would be mad, and there were people that were mad. There were people that weren't, isn't this strange? And I think it was such a great moment where I got to show and model for my boys, like what it looks like to see through magical eyes, like to have eyes
Yeah.
be the extraordinary in the ordinary.
Yeah. I mean, you could look at it from a conspiracy sense. That's good.
Got the mayor.
But that was, pre
It was
2020.
pre 2020. And so,
I mean, it was 2020, but it was pre what it came to mean for us.
what I also was thinking about was how all of these people that were standing in the lines all over the country, they were then going to go out and tell the story at their dinner table, or to their friend, or to their mother-in-law,
Yeah.
or to the people at the birthday party we were going to. And then like this ripple effect of everybody talking about the same thing. And I was like, oh, this is so exciting. We're all like focused on the same thing.
Were you? Because I wonder how that story went for people,
Yeah.
I'm guessing there weren't a lot of people looking at it with those eyes, right?
Well, probably not. Probably not. My husband and I do, though. We like when we are.
That well, I have a friend who I work with at a summer camp, and she loves it when people get embarrassed because and just I mean she's a magical kind of person, but so it's not a like shameful kind of thing. It's more like knocking people off of their rigidness.
Right. And their
Knocking them,
okayness, like my
yeah,
barrier of strength.
right. And I mean, she has just a beautiful, lighthearted, loving way about her that she can, break up that rigidity in an instant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Such a fun person to be around.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't you want to be, as I tell that story and think about that story, I like me. Like if I look at that as a character, like in a movie, if I'm watching a movie, which would be a very
Hmm.
boring movie, I gotta say, but if I were watching the movie and I saw the character, the mom, the woman who got excited and like showed her boys, like I'd be like, oh, I like her, I like.
Yeah.
And I and honestly, I've said this on several occasions in many different platforms, but that was the beginning of my work. It all stemmed from, at the end of the day, I want to like me. I just want to like who I am, because I
Yeah.
so profoundly did not like myself.
I have the opposite. I like myself, but I want other people to like me. And we've been working on this art altered book challenge, right?
Mm.
And this morning, I was looking at my book, and the title of my book is "The Time of the Hero."
Oh, you named it. Love it.
No, that is the title of the book that I
Oh, the
chose.
actual book. Okay.
The title of the book is "The Time of the Hero."
Oh,
And so I've never read the book. I don't really know. I don't know what it's about. I have no idea. I did my word of the year, every year. And so my book is sort of a album of these words of the year. And I'm combining the art challenge into that book. because as I'm changing my story, I felt like it was appropriate to fit into that. But there's a quote, it's she needed a hero, so that's what she became. Have
Yeah.
you heard that quote?
I think I have, but yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love that quote. And somebody sent it to me on a card, and I just put it up on my refrigerator years ago, and it's still there
Yeah.
as a reminder to myself
Yeah.
that it's important to be your own hero. And it doesn't matter if anybody else sees that.
And that is something that intellectually we can say, and it's
Right.
very difficult to embody it.
Right.
But I can say that I noticed about myself that I wanted everybody to like me. And I would, as I said, be addicted to the applause. So I'd bend over backwards and do all kinds of cartwheels and flips. I can't do a cartwheel even to this day, but metaphorically, I would do all this to like be liked. But I realized what was at its core is I wanted them to like me so that I could like me. Like I was waiting for them to like me so then I could like me. And I went, oh, why don't I just, cut out the middleman and
Yeah.
decide to like me?
That's a good, I like that. Let's just cut out the middleman. Well,
Yeah.
now that I'm hearing you say it again, and sometimes I need to hear things many, many times, that is true for me too.
Yeah, it is true.
But maybe your story is more true.
You think mine's true? Dad, I was going to ask you, is it true? Is it unpolished? What is it?
Well, I think it's true. I think that unpolished is when, for me, it's when things kind of look raw and ugly sometimes,
Messy. Yeah.
messy. And that's just a magical moment where you were able to be true to yourself and your boys.
What I find amazing is that we talked yesterday because were to have a guest on today and that
Right.
guest couldn't make it. So we, kind of had a phone call yesterday to talk about what should we talk about then. And what we came up with is let's talk about a crazy, shocking moment. Like that was the instruction. And both you and I chose a moment. Oh, well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay. We chose a crazy moment that what happened for us was magical. But maybe that's because when something crazy, shocking happens, we can decide if it's magical or not. But since we had embraced that way of being, by the time these instances took place, that's how we perceive them. Because both of our stories, it's you having magic moment, me having a magic moment.
Maybe we're just censoring ourselves because we want people to like us.
Yeah, actually, this has all been about having you like us. Did we accomplish it? So, okay, because what I think we need to do is figure out the quality of your experience, the quality of mine, and then how are we going to create more of
Of
that,
that.
of that. Um,
Right.
and then when I had that thought, I thought, well, both of our qualities were the same.
Well, it's perspective. Is
Yeah.
that the quality?
Well,
Being looking at things with fresh eyes.
right.
Beginner's mind is what it's called in
Yeah.
Zen.
Not labeling something as or deciding something as bad because it appears to be bad.
Right. Every experience that we have is a new experience. Even if you go to work the same way, to the same office, to the same people, to the same mess on your desk,
Mm-hmm.
you are a different person than you were yesterday. And all those other people and all those experiences, even if your job is the most monotonous, mundane thing in the world, every experience is new, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But we forget that. I mean, that's falling asleep, is saying, I've been here before. I've done this before. I know what to expect. I know how this is going to go.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
falling asleep.
yeah. And so being open to a new way of perceiving. So is that it? We're seeing the extraordinary in the ordinary?
Well, Wonder Woman isn't a character, it's a mindset.
Not.
That's the quote that I found this morning and added to my book.
Ooh, I love it.
So, yeah, that quote resonated with me this morning because we all have that in us. I mean, what you and I are talking about is not something that is unique to us. And I
Mm-mm.
think that when these moments happen, these sort of universal moments, where like yours literally was happening all around the country, mine was happening more locally, but it was a universal experience. It's an invitation.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about creating more of being willing to see.
Being open to be open is what I say.
Yeah. So, how are we going to create more of that?
What I've been doing really more than ever, even though I've taught mindfulness for years and I practice what I call informal mindfulness for years. I've practiced because that's all I could do. I couldn't sit down and meditate for a long period. But this year I
Yeah.
have committed to meditating for 15 minutes every morning. I don't do it every morning. I miss some mornings, but I'm committed to it. And that has been helpful. It doesn't take away all the pain and suffering in my own experience, but it does help me to soften and to open my heart
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
And what I know is that sitting down and practicing that formal meditation trains your brain so that you are able to do it moment by moment.
Yes.
So if I've been practicing that formal meditation, then if I show up in Target
Mm-hmm.
and the whole, computer system shuts down, then I'm more likely to catch myself and be open to the moment.
Yeah.
Not every time,
Yeah.
not every time,
Yeah.
but I'm more likely.
Right. Progress, not perfection. Remember that you have a choice. So, how do we remember that we have a choice? This is what I'm inspired to say. So, I'm going to say it. You who are listening right now, something is going to happen soon, and you are going to remember hearing this. And it's that moment that is your
Yeah.
invitation to open and soften, as Mary put it, to take a breath and be
Yeah.
empty. You know, don't label, just be empty. So there you go, everybody. That's exciting.
And, if you've listened to this podcast to the end, I want to say thank you because one part of my story is that they don't see me.
Mm,
They don't want to hear what I have to say.
mm.
So stay small.
Ah, yeah.
And that is very contradictory to what I believe my soul is here to do.
Hmm.
And so being willing to look at the truth of our story
Yeah.
and to uncover it and being willing to tell a new story.
Yeah. Well, what I've noticed, the nature of the story, of your story, is that to you, it is true. So to me, this is true. You know, it's not a story, it's true. It's very difficult to tell a new story when we don't see it as a story. I think the first step is recognizing that it is just a story, because that's
Right.
the hardest part, you know? And I did not realize the degree to which I did not know it was a story.
So Abraham Hicks says a belief is just a thought that we keep thinking.
Yeah.
And so it's true because you've been thinking it for so long. But that being said, it is not true. It is a story that you can change.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and you can choose to believe something different. That's the tough part though, because the thoughts become automatic. So they're in the back of our mind,
Yeah.
replaying, and there's our prover setting out to prove that those thoughts are true all the time.
Yeah.
So it's being willing to look at it,
Mhm.
and being willing to change it even before the belief or the truth is there to back it up.
Okay, hashtag art challenge, everybody. Thank you, as Mary said, for listening. This is really, really our great pleasure and honor to be able to do this. And so, those of you who listen, so much love and gratitude to you. You have been listening to True and Unpolished, the podcast. Let's see what happens next.